This, I just want to start with this false color image I found on the net. You can do a lot of stuff with false colors, but the underlying premise of this one is that an artist, a digital artist, has compared the complexity of a brain cell with the universe. And when you look at it, the brain is at least 1,000 times more complex in the terms of its connections than, our known galaxy at this point. So anyway, I'll come back and talk about some art later on. One thing I also want to say, I know there's some VCs in this company, and come and say hello to. We were actually about to announce our round, so I'm not going to hit on you for money. One of the things I went round is one of the VCs I spoke to wouldn't invest in us because I wasn't a founder. So that inspired me. If anyone's familiar with this book here, it inspired me to write my own book that I'm not a founder. And I just wanted everyone to know that. But, I really believe in being authentic, and I want to just talk about what I'm not either. I really don't, I can't even see my own slides. I'm not a brain guru. So please, I really am not an expert in the brain. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not a brain researcher, and I'm sure there'll be many in the company here, or in this company. I'm really not an expert in anything. Really, the only someone mentioned was BlackBerry, and I think I once got to the third best person on asteroids on a BlackBerry once in my life. That was my one only claim to fame. And, I've got no medical training whatsoever. So what I am, though, is I can talk about, I'm a person with a strange accent. I'm passionate about making a difference. And one thing I'll talk about today is the whole idea about when you lead a company, this whole idea of being authentic. And I do have a background in physics, and I'm very passionate about data. I did do a master's fairly recently in statistics. So I tend to be more objective than intuitive in terms that data is very important to me. And the last thing, I am leading a very, very cool brain company, which I'm really enjoying. I've been there for the last 4 years. Now, anyway, let's start with this in terms of, what I loved about this, I was originally going to show the video clip. This is from Back to the Future, and it's got a great scene where Marty rushes in to meet Doc Brown, and Doc Brown says, "Don't say a word, don't say a word." And he puts on his neuroanalyzer to read his brain, and he reads all his brain, and eventually has the punchline at the end and says, "You know what this proves? It proves this doesn't work." Right? It's a great clip. If Elon Musk or Mark was in the room, I'd thank them. Certainly, some of the vision there in terms of what we can do in terms of reading brain, in the future, that we can read 100 words, in a minute in terms of brain thoughts. We're not there. We do not pretend to be there. The one caveat I would put is one of my previous experiences when I just came out of university. I worked for Motorola, and everyone got to share a computer. So we actually got one computer terminal between 4 of us, and it spun round in the desk that we could actually use this. And there was this person that worked with me that had this vision that everyone would eventually have a PC in their home. And I thought it was so ridiculous. I ripped him apart. I pointed out all the reasons that this was not. I was talking about power management, heat dissipation, lack of a proper use case. And I just wish I could go back in a time machine, like Back in the Future, and apologize to this person. So, I'm very skeptical about some of the claims that are being made in terms of reading brain thoughts, but I was about everyone having, like a dozen computer devices in their life right now. So there's definitely, technology tends to take a lot longer to unfold than everyone perhaps tells the VCs in the room. The other thing I want to talk about is what we do now. What we do is we do EEG, right? There's other forms out there. You can actually implant things on the brain. You can do localized field potentials by implanting things, directly towards neurons. You can stimulate the brain. We don't do any of that. The only thing that we do is we do EEG when it comes to the brain. This video here.
My focus when I engage it, it'll pull down the handle when my voltmeter of my brain waves hit over certain bands. I engage. I relax.
So this was done several years. This was our thought-controlled beer tap.
That's
and
how you pour yourself
what we told people to do. And it's funny, I did a talk in Taiwan where everyone was like, not a word from it. I showed this video, I almost got a standing ovation. So I don't know the magic of this video, but coming from Scotland, if someone gave me a beer that badly poured, it would be going straight back, right? Now, what we've got here is we're not, we tell people to think about, pouring the beer. And, it would be an obvious conclusion if you think about pouring the beer, we're reading your thoughts and we pour the beer. We're not doing that. What we're doing is we're measuring a brain state where someone moves to a focused state. And what we can do is pick that up and give the illusion that we're pouring a beer. So one thing I just want to make clear here in a company that we do not think the power, certainly for the foreseeable future, in things like EEG is controlling things. We have no focus in that. We've done some cool things like for the Olympic Games, we had over 7,000 people control the lights on, Niagara Falls and the Canadian Parliament buildings. We just don't see the control side. There's better ways of doing control. What this is for us is all about insights on understanding our behaviors and understanding ourselves. We have, in terms of BCI, we're probably found ourselves the largest consumer, EEG company in the world now. We have over 3 million sessions of high-quality EEG in our database. And, in terms of the Muse product, we've got over 200,000 people that have now used the Muse product. And what you'll see, they'll talk a bit more about a new product is the Smith glasses. I'll talk about that, what we've done there. Just again, this idea of being authentic, this is like a retail display in Best Buy where you can go in and buy our product, and it sells very well. And what I don't want to be here is hawking something. What this product does is, the way I try to tell people, it helps people learn a meditation practice. It helps them on board. There's many different types of meditation. There's many different ways of doing a meditation practice. The way that we bring this, it's really targeted at actually introducing people that maybe don't have access to things like meditation teachers or access to classes. It's not meant to replace it. Now, if you look at our reviews, the good news is about 80% of people love our product. And it also means that 10% go, not for me, and 10% hate it. So I just want to talk about the 10% that don't like it right now. About 5% of them, it just doesn't work. We don't know why it doesn't work. We're constantly looking at our algorithms to see. But what we're trying to do is measure that state from you thinking about many things to a focused state. And 5% of the people, it just doesn't work. So the product is certainly not for everyone. We want to recognize that. The other problem we have is one of Bluetooth connection issues. Some of that is everyone's head is a different size. And, that can be based on your ethnicity, it can be based on your gender, but our headband does not fit small heads, right? So if someone with a small head buys this product, they're going to take it right back. The other one is sometimes we're at the mercy. I don't know if there's anyone from Apple here, but thank you for the 10.0 update that made our product useless for about 2 weeks. But when people phoned us up, we were honest and we just said, we didn't blame anyone on that. But bringing a product like this, is the point I'm trying to make, is not easy. There's a lot of things in your control, and there's a lot of things not in your control. But when you bring it to market, I think it's very important you be authentic in terms of what you are bringing to the market. The Muse is a lot of people will be familiar, but essentially there's two components to it. There's an element of real-time feedback. It's an auditory experience where the calmer you become, the sounds of the weather or the rainforest becomes quieter. And then there's a sort of gamification of it where we allow people to actually check their data and see how they're improving on it. And it's a balance because there's a certain demographic out there that wants to compete in meditation. And for the others, just find it a bit weird that you should not be competing in meditation. So we try to ride that balance there. And then the other thing we do with the user experience, which I think was brave of, is if we don't have a good connection and we don't read proper EEG, we will kick you out of the experience. That leads to a bad consumer experience. But however, what it does is it protects the integrity of the data that we're collecting in the background with the user's permission, of course. The other thing we've done is we see a lot of our product being bought by clinicians. And we've actually launched a product which is a dashboard where a clinician can actually go in and actually have an email web-based dashboard to actually monitor and verify that people are meditating that's under their care. So that's actually launched and is growing fairly well. The other one I want to talk about is the Smith glasses. This is something that we've kept. When you bring up a company and you're doing lots of stuff, when you bring it to market, you really just want to bring a simple message to market. And our message was, we help people learn how to meditate. This product's actually launched now, actually launched last week. You can actually go and order it on the Smith Optical website. And what we've done there is we've built the EEG glasses, the EEG technology into glasses, and they are available, here they are here. And one thing we're very proud about them is they actually are only about 30 grams. And we've put an awful lot of other sensors in it that we haven't enabled yet. But I'm actually going to just let you pass these round while I'm speaking for the last bit. If you pass them around quickly, and if you're going to steal them to get the technology, just go buy them off the Smith website, and there'll be no problem there. The thing about, if people aren't familiar with Smith, we can actually cue this video.
Life and sport are filled with chaos and distraction. We train to be better. Now we can train our mental game. Introducing the Lowdown Focus. For performance in the critical moment. The first ever brain-sensing eyewear.
So unlike the Muse, which was targeted towards a sort of mindfulness meditation market, this product is about sports performance. Right? I don't know if anyone ever watched the Canadian US hockey junior finals where Canada was up something like 5-1 and the team just caved. Right? So there's an example of the mental game starts with the brain in the terms of this product. Now, what we're excited about this product is, as a statistician, we've built a number of other sensors in this. So we've certainly got the EEG, but we've got the ability to track your eyes in the EOG and also muscle tension in the EMG. But we've also built in fitness trackers like accelerometers and gyroscopes. So, where it's placed in the head becomes very accurate in terms of measuring things like cadence and posture. And we've built in cool things like UV sensors so we can tell how much UV sensor lights coming onto you, and things like altimeters. So if you fall, we can tell the rate you're falling, and a bunch of other sensors. And we can actually measure heart rate with this as well. That if anyone wants to come see me later on, I'll actually demonstrate the heart rate on these glasses. And yet the whole thing weighs like 31 grams. Now this is a licensing deal, so we actually we sell this product, but basically it's been manufactured by the world's second largest glass company, Safilo, who owns Smith Optical. They own brands like Carrara, Hugo Boss, and have licensings. If you've got Dior glasses or Kate Spade, they're all made by the Safilo Group. The other thing we've done that we haven't told is we've actually integrated all our technology into EEG, and we're fairly advanced in this. We have 8 sensors. We also can measure things like heart rate and heart rate variability with our EEG system, and look for some announcements early next year in the terms of a launch, what we're doing here. Now, I just want to talk about EEG in terms of what we take seriously there, in the sense that we've got a Muse and an EEG. And this is actually an overlay of a clinical grade ActiChamp system that costs about $90,000. So it was very important for us to get the quality of signal the same as clinical EEG. Now, what you miss out on is it's only 4 channels, so you get a cross-section from the sort of eyes back to the ears, and you don't get the spatial resolution you would get with a full-cap system. But we've actually found in scientific papers, which we'll talk about in a minute, they've coined this thing called sparse EEG now, and I'll show you later on a lot of the efficacy that's coming from researchers using our product. The other thing we can do that people didn't think we could do is something called evoked potentials or event-related potentials. Right, the example I've got up here is when your brain sees a face, it has a particular response to it in terms of evoked potential that's very unique compared to, see, if you see something like a house. And we can measure most of the evoked potentials there. And again, this has been validated by some of the universities that we've been working with. There's the Muse headband, but it's important to understand what we've built behind this is actually a fairly sophisticated platform that involves not just the Muse headband and the hardware like VR and glasses, but we also have an app developer. We've got a very sophisticated SDK for developers. And if you go into your Apple or your Google and just put in Muse EEG, you'll see a bunch of other developers now developing on our platform. And we believe with the glasses that will actually go up, many times more, because glasses is something you wear all the time, where Muse is something that people are typically comfortable, wearing in private. One thing we talk about just briefly is about the whole thing of efficacy and advocacy here. It's very tempting when you start a company to make claims. Like the most basic is you find the one person on Amazon that wrote a good review, it changed my life, and then you put it up on the big screens and it somehow validates your product. We've decided not to do that. The other one is you can go and do your own clinical trial or your own pilot trial, where you basically pay someone to do on 100 people, our device did this and made you 10 times better. We purposely decided not to do that. The only claim we make with the Muse is it helps people learn how to meditate. No other claim. And I think this is very responsible, that when you're bringing science or trans-tech to the world, that you don't overstate what it can do. And you can see the papers. We're now at the cadence there. If you actually go to choosemuse.com/research, you'll see a number of papers being brought out with people at IBM and MIT that are using our product for different things. Here's some of the ones we have pilots going on. We're working with people at Spalding Rehab and mild traumatic brain injury. Oh, NASA's classified. I can't actually show what we're doing with NASA. But this is our chief scientist actually down at NASA, and this is actually us working. Oh, no resemblance to Leonard from The Big Bang. I just think these guys look the same. Right, this was actually in a flight simulator down, using both the Smith glasses, where we're actually working with NASA on some stuff that's under NDA. So one thing we've done is, while bringing a meditation product to the market, what we've also done in the background is established over 200 research relationships, including people like NASA and IBM and MIT. So the thing is, so we've built stuff into brain tech, so what? Type thing. So some of the things that we can do, here is a paper at the university where people, after wearing our Muse headband for 4 times a week for 6 weeks, you can actually measure physical effects in them, as well as effects in terms of their emotional state. And again, if you want to read the paper, just goes to choosemuse.com/research, and the efficacy is there. And the thing is, we don't pay for any of this. This is all third-party research, subject to third-party peer review. Here's one that we did with MIT. MIT used the Muse headband to look at classifying if people are in pain or not in pain. What I found most surprising about this is it's actually legal to torture students, to put them into pain, right? Which is unusual. But again, it's on our website if you want to look at it. This one, if I can cue this video. This is one of our developers, Yasna. And basically, she's driving a car. It's a PlayStation. But if we distract her with a phone, you'll see the circle go red. And we'll repeat that in just a moment. You can see a high cognitive load as she works through a difficult part of the game.
Pick up your phone again?
And then what we do is pick up the phone. You can see we immediately detect it. So again, we're looking at mental states. Now, that's fair enough that we are doing it. But what's more important here is IBM have written a paper verifying this, where they're actually using it in real-life situations in car and measuring people's attention as they drive cars. This one is as they go and merge onto a freeway. And believe me, when you're in California, merging onto a freeway, it does make you stressful, that's for sure. This one's very important. There's a couple of stories here. One is what we've done is, one of the problems we've solved is we've made EEG very portable. So this is a research team from the University of Victoria that actually climbed to the base camp of Mount Everest with basically a laptop and a Muse headband. And what they're doing is a paper coming out, I don't think it's out yet, where they're looking at the effects of cognitive performance with altitude signals. The other cool thing we did is we wrote to the Dalai Lama at the same time. We're very cognizant about doing studies in monks because they tend to be nice people, and if you ask things, they tend to agree. And that you're imposing on people, right? If someone came and says, "Can I get you a seat?" Of course you can, right? It doesn't mean I don't want the seat. So what we did is we wrote to the Dalai Lama, and we actually went in and we studied different meditative states, and that's papers coming out. But what we did find is the whole papers coming out is based on various cognitive assessments. Various types of meditation do and do not have an effect on that cognitive performance. So look for that one. What's delaying the paper right now is the ethics committee in the University of Victoria, because we didn't get individual consent forms from every single monk. So right now there's a Sherpa running up and down Mount Everest getting consent forms so this paper can be published. Right, but what it does demonstrate, if you look over at the side here, and I'll talk a bit more about this later, is normally EEG's been about for a long time, but their cohort size, because of setup times and expense, where typically 50 people would be a big experiment. Our cohort size in experiments is 10,000 people, right? So, if you look at what's known as the statistical power, it really allows you to go in there and make conclusive studies in a way that's never been done before. Here's an example of one where it's been published in eNeuro. We worked with McMaster University. The first one is basically your alpha power will actually change as you grow older, very predictably. So we now just like you here, you've got a physical age measure, like Derek, you have the body of a 20-year-old, right? This one you can actually see where you're on the curve in terms of your age. It's a very predictable one, and these outliers at the end, as you get older, it could be just lack of sample size. It could be signs of things like cognitive decay. We really don't know, but we are starting some work with Baycrest, which is one of the premier institutes in Canada looking after aged populations. On the other side is beta band. We can actually distinguish gender on that one, in the sense that again, you've got a biomarker where you can actually look at the difference between males and females on it. The other thing we're doing is we have about 60% of people that opt into our research program. And one of the reasons is we've had a very straightforward privacy policy. And basically we say this data belongs to you. If you revoke it any time, we will delete it from our database. And as a consequence, 60% of people opt in. And that's why our database is so large. And what we're actually doing right now is for the last few months, we've been actually asking people what's known as the PHQ-4, which is a psychometric evaluation of his anxiety and depression. So what we're doing is we've built that in, and again, on this massive scale, we can now go and look at for biomarkers and see how they relate to anxiety and depression as well. So that's work in process. Where I get really excited about this in terms of the glasses is when you actually look at, say, putting the glasses on an elderly patient and they're staying at home, we can measure their physical activity, we can measure their eye movements, so how much they're reading, we can measure their brain states, we can measure how long it takes them to sit up and stand down, we can measure things like the gyroscope, so sensitive, you can start measuring things like the onset of Parkinson's. So as a statistician, I get very excited because all the data is becoming from a single point. And the last thing I'm going to end on is I'm going to end on a piece of art as well. This was 4 incredible friends that got together at Burning Man and built this thing called the Tree of Tenerife, which is basically 4 stories high. And each leaf is an individually addressable LED. And what we did with Muse is we actually hooked a Muse up to it. And we actually, 2 couples actually get married under the tree, which I thought was very cool. But we did, as well as Muse, we haven't released it, but we've actually figured out how to measure things like heart rate variability. We can measure things like your breathing. And what we did is we created a number of experiences there with the people that created the tree, where people could actually, be with the tree and actually see there are things like their EEG come in sync with each other, see things like their breathing coming in sync with each other. And that's my last slide. Thank you. Yeah.